Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Throwing Salmon Scott selections here for Tuesday, October 10th. For again today's play of the day, quick recap what happened yesterday. We had a loss in the NFL with the Packers money line at plus 114 on FanDuel. Not going to call it a bad beat, but it was a pretty rough one because Green Bay was pretty even with the Raiders throughout, and the only difference was the turnovers because Jordan Love couldn't stop turning it over. Garoppolo wasn't good either, but he was better than Love at actually keeping control of the football, and Green Bay eventually fell short on that final drive. McDaniels tried to help us out by making another dumb decision, going for that field goal, but the Packers eventually fell short, picked up a loss there. Look for a winner here on Tuesday. And for today's play, they're going to transition over to hockey because it's officially the first day of the NHL season. And we're going to look at a matchup between the Blackhawks and the Penguins taking place at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And for this matchup, we're going to take a total in this one. We're going to go with the first period over 1.5 goals at minus 140 on FanDuel. Time recording of 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Covering why we're going to take the first period over 1.5 in this game. First reason shopping around minus 140 is the best line by far. Most books have minus 150, but BetMGM does have minus 165. So 140 is a bargain, and I'm going to take it. But to go through the preseason numbers for these teams, I know preseason might not be the best indicator, but it is the only evidence we have of the current rosters for the upcoming year. Both teams tended to go over in the first period in preseason. 4 of Chicago's last 5 preseason games had at least 2 goals in the first period, and 5 of Pittsburgh's 7 preseason games had at least 2 goals in the first period. And to go through last season's numbers, Pittsburgh was a pretty offensive team in the first period at home. So 27 of Pittsburgh's 41 home games last year had at least 2 goals in the first period. And you want to look at the actual roster moves made by both teams over the break. Overall, both teams got better offensively. Now, Chicago was a really bad offensive team last year, but they got lucky and ended up getting the first pick in the draft. So they ended up getting Connor Bedard, who's supposed to be an absolute phenom, but he's gonna help out the offensive core because his goal total projection is somewhere in the 30s. As for the other moves, they ended up picking up Taylor Hall, who's been a pretty solid player for most of his career, and he does give this offense a bit of a spark, at least maybe on the power play, because that was an issue for this team last year. But as for Pittsburgh, this team made a couple of splash moves during the offseason. They got Riley Smith, and the main move, the main trade of the offseason, they traded for Erik Karlsson. Now, Karlsson ended up winning the Norris last year for best defenseman, and he ended up having 100-plus points. It's a bit ironic that he won the Norris Trophy because even though he's a great offensive defenseman, he's a really bad defensive defenseman. So the argument is Pittsburgh is going to be a more high-scoring team because they got a great offensive defenseman that really doesn't really play that well in the defensive zone. But that power play, which was already really good, is going to be disgusting. You have Karlsson, you have Crosby, you have Malkin, you have Letang, and you have Gensel. That's the projected first-line power play. Now, Gensel's questionable. We'll see if he'll play or not, but he was practicing earlier this week. We'll see what happens there. But the point is Pittsburgh's offense should be very solid and even better with Karlsson in the lineup. Defensively, though, both teams were really not great last year, especially early in games. And I do think that Pittsburgh and Chicago should combine for at least 2 goals in the first period. You see Mrazek in net, who statistically was one of the worst starting goalies in the league last year against Jari. Jari was kind of middle of the road. He has a couple of really bad starts every year, but still, he's kind of mediocre at that point. But both goalies aren't exactly going to wow you, and both offenses are pretty good. I do think this number is a bit too low. Split that once again here for Tuesday, October 10th. It's going to be on the Blackhawks and Penguins. First period over, 1.5 goals at minus 140 on FanDuel. Bye, everyone.